Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So this is going to be the first problem of our JavaScript interview series where we will solve a host of curated problems that you can solve and you can crack any kind of problem solving interviews either in big tech or startups. So let's start with the first question, and the first question is we have to implement Promise.all polyfill from scratch. Now, rather than directly jumping into the code, it is very important that we understand the requirements and the problem. So what is this Promise.all? So you can either go to the MDN docs or any other document, and we can first read here the definition. You can try with examples, make sure you understand, note down your requirements, and then solve. And then you will see the magic, right? So let us quickly go through the definition. The Promise.all is a static method that takes an iterable of promises as input, okay, and it returns a single promise. This return promise fulfills when all of the input promises fulfill, including when an empty iterable is passed with an array of the fulfillment values. It rejects when any of the input promises rejects with this first rejection reason. A lot of things we have just got the requirements from this definition itself. And if you want to dive more into this, you can click on run, then reset, then do some code and test this particular demo. So with the help of this, let us try to note down our requirements. And the very first thing that you can see is it takes an iterable of promises. So you can say it takes an iterable of promises. The second thing is it returns a single promise. Okay. The third thing is that the return promise fulfill when all of the input promises fulfills. Got it? Also, we have found an edge case that when an empty iterable is passed, it will resolve with the empty array, or it will resolve. You can say that. And if any rejects, it will reject with the first rejection reason, and we do not have to care about the other promises, because if anyone rejects, we reject it then and there, and that is what is written here. Again, if you try out the demo, you will see that the promises that you are passing in is basically returning the answers in the same order. So this belongs to this promise, this belongs to this, and then so on. So we can say that along with, or you can say the order is preserved, or you can say the results in the same order as promises. And last thing you can also observe here is that it is handling, it's not a promise, right? So it's handling a non-promise value as well. So we can say it handles non-promise values as well. Great. Now we have everything that we need to implement, right? So the very first thing that we can do is it returns a promise. Cool. We can say return a new promise. This is how we return a promise. And we know that the callback takes a resolve and reject. Okay, the first part is done. The second thing is we have the promises. It's an iterable of promises. Got it. So we have to also return the results as the same order of the promises. So why not create a results array, right? So what we can do is, if we want to resolve all the promises one by one, right? So we can say promises and we can loop through them. So for this case, let's use for each, and in the callback of the for each, let's have a promise. So it will loop through each of the promise or item, and we also get an index. So how do you resolve a promise? You just say promise.resolve. And in fact, we could have also done like this, right? Because it's already a promise. So we can say promise.then. If it is resolved, it will go to .then. If it is rejected, it will go to .catch. But we have also written here that it needs to handle non-promise values as well. And this is important because you cannot just say 42.then here, right? So if you go here, you cannot just say 42 dot then, but when you say promise dot resolve and you pass 42 here, then it is converted to the promise that is resolved with that value. So this is very important thing. So we can say promise dot resolve, so it will take up the non-promise values. Great. And then we can say dot then, whatever the value that we get, we can store it in the results array. So we can say index equal to value, so the order is preserved. That's great. And now the thing is, the return promise fulfills when all of the input promise fulfills. How do we know that, right? We cannot just resolve the results now, because we have to wait until all of the promises fulfill. So why not keep a track of it? So we can say let completed count, and let's say 0. So whenever we are filling in the values, because we know that it is getting resolved, so we can say completed count plus plus. And here, once we are doing that, right, we can just add a check. We can say if completed count is equal to promises dot length. That means what? So this promises is coming as an input or the array of or the iterable of promises, right? So if the completed count is equal to the promises dot length, that means all of them are resolved. So we can finally resolve our main return promise with the results array. Great. And whenever any of the promise gets rejected, so it will go to the dot catch method and we reject it then and there, right? So it will go to the rejection mode. So it will reject immediately whenever any promise fails, and thereby it is rejecting the main promise as well, because we are passing the main promise reject here. Cool. Are we missing anything? Okay, so this part is done. This part is done. If you see that we have one edge case to handle, right? If the promise is an empty array, or this is a empty array, right? So what we can do is we can just say if promises dot length is equal to 0. In that case, what we have to do? We just have to resolve with the empty array, and thereby we do not need to run all of this code. So we can just return from this function out. And I think this looks good. So we can test out the scenarios. So we have test cases written here, and you can see that there are different cases: when all resolve successfully, or when one rejects, right? Or if an empty array is given, then what should be the case? If there is a mixed promise and values, then what should be the case? And if the order is not maintained, right? So I have written all these edge cases. You just need to go to the particular folder that you can download it from the GitHub, that I'll put it in the description below. And here we can just say node index.js, and you can see that it has passed all the cases, right? So the all promises is all successfully, one promise rejects, empty array returns empty array. Great. This is also passed, this is also passed, and none of the tests is failed. If you also want to test this particular thing out, we can go here. We can put it here, let's say promise, and the main function that we are using is Promise.all. So let me replace it, and now let me run that again. We should see 342 and foo, 342 and foo, and this is working perfectly fine. So this is all for this video, guys, and if you have got something out of it, please do like and subscribe. See you in the next videos. Thank you.